Oi, Space Marine, welcome to the jungles of Catachan, where the plants might kill you, the water might kill you, and don't even get me started on the wildlife. In other words, watch your step.
Never save me.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're making jungle bases. A lot of the materials I use on these bases I order from Green Stuff World. They're not a sponsor of the channel, but they are a great resource for basing material. As always, links to every item I used will be in the description below. Let's get started. First up, you're going to need some ground cover. I especially like this Muddy Ground by AK Interactive. It applies really easy and it looks really nice for this type of base. Next up, you'll need some paper plants. Various companies make these, such as Green Stuff World and AK Interactive. Compared to the typical aquarium plants that most people use, these look way more realistic and they're pretty easy to work with. You'll also want some small shrub tufts. Variety is key when making a jungle base, so the more variety you have in your vegetation, the more realistic it's going to look. Some grass tufts will also be useful on these bases. For this base, I grabbed some short, dark green ones that kind of look like moss. I also grabbed some resin tree stumps from Green Stuff World. Now, you could shape these out of green stuff and make your own pretty easily, but I wanted to give these a try, and for what it's worth, I like them. Next up is some scatter foliage. Now this is one item that you probably could save money on. If you went to your grocery store, went down your spice aisle, and grabbed a couple green or brown herbs, you probably could create this stuff for a lot cheaper. Last but not least are plant roots. Now I've seen a few diorama sites where you can buy these, but I got mine when I pulled up a bush doing some yard work. If you've got some gardening to do, it's a great resource for them. Otherwise, you might have to get creative. Okay, let's get building this thing. First, super glue that tree stump onto the base. I usually put it off to the side to leave room for the model. Next, we're going to apply that ground texture. I like to use something disposable like this plastic knife. Now, don't worry if it gets on the tree stump a little bit, it's just going to add to the realism. With the ground texture still wet, go ahead and break off those small pieces of your root and stick them in. It looks best if the root is covered in some places, so feel free to go back with that mud and cover some of it up. Also, don't worry if the roots overhang off the base a little bit. Once it's dry, you can go back and trim it. Once everything is nice and dry, you'll need to prime the base. I used black because it's what I had. If you have something like a nice brown, it'd probably work really well. Okay, let's throw some color down. Any dark brown will do, but in this case I'm using Vallejo Charred Brown. Slap this down over everything on the base, including the tree stump. With the paint dry, give the entire base a heavy wash with Agrax Earthshade. With the wash dry, we're moving on to dry brushing. You'll want a lighter brown, a tan, and a green. These are the ones that I'm going to use. We're we're going to start off with the brown. For this color, we're going to do a heavy dry brush, so you don't need to get every bit of paint off your brush. Again, go over the whole base with this color, and cheap makeup brushes like I'm using right here work great for this. Next, we're going to use the tan. For this step, we're going a lot lighter. So go ahead and get most of the paint off the brush and just lightly graze over the topmost surfaces. Lastly, we're going to do the green. Again, we're going light with this color. I like to place it sporadically on the base, but I like to focus on the areas that would be shaded, so like the base of the tree stump or beneath some of the roots that we placed. Okay, with most of the painting done, let's move on to the plants. First, I'm going to place down some of these mossy grass tufts in those shaded areas that I just talked about. They have adhesive backing, but I still like to super glue them down. Again guys, like I said earlier, you don't have to use the same exact stuff I did, and if you add more variety than I did, it'll look even better. Moving on to the shrubs, go ahead and glue them down, but make sure you're being mindful where you want to place your mini. Obviously, bigger minis with bigger bases allows you to have a little bit more fun with your placement. Now it's time to paint those paper plants. I recommend not doing what I'm doing and instead paint them while they're still on their little sprue. For this, I'm just using green and brown washes and stippling them with a makeup brush, trying to add some color variations. Honestly, I'm just winging it in this part, but it seemed to work out fine. Do whatever works for you, but if you want to use this method, I just used brown and green wash and just stippled it, and it looks nice. Next, we're going to make a little stem for our paper plant. I'm just using a little piece of a toothpick, but I'm sure anything else you can find would work just fine. Once you have your little toothpick piece, go ahead and find out where you want to put the plant and just super glue it down. Then we're going to go ahead and paint the toothpick green and give it a little bit of a brown wash because I used way too bright of a green. Most of this is going to get covered by the leaves, so even if it's not a perfect color match, you're not going to even notice it. Once your wash and paint have dried, go ahead and apply super glue to your stem in the areas where you want to attach the leaves. With the glue applied, you can go ahead and grab your leaves and attach them to the stem. Don't worry if the leaves aren't at the perfect angle right away. The paper that these are made out of bends without creasing, so once it's dry, you can just adjust them. Like I said earlier, these laser cut paper plants look way more realistic than the aquarium plants most people use, but it should be said that you will spend a little bit more money for the quality you're getting. Another thing with the paper plants, you'll see that it tells you how many plants you're getting in the package, but in the case of this base, I'm using about a quarter of what makes a full plant. Okay, and for our last step, we're going to apply the scatter foliage. Just water down some white glue and apply it to the base. Sprinkle this stuff on liberally and blow or brush off any excess that you don't want. It's really just that easy. Okay guys, you did it! You made some sick looking jungle bases. Now you can go even further than I did. You can add more plants, you can add little puddles. The options are endless. Again, everything I used will be in the description below, and if you buy anything with our Amazon links, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but a small portion does go to support the channel. If this video helped you in any way, please like and subscribe, and as always, thank you for your time, and take care.